So usually when we think about artificial intelligence, we picture a chat box, right?
Exactly. Like a little text window.
Right. It's just this text prompt floating in the digital ether. You type a question and you get an answer.
hmm
It feels very confined, almost like a brain trapped behind the glass of your computer screen.
It's a purely digital interaction,
Yeah.
And because of that, it can feel, I mean, entirely disconnected from the dirt, the gravity, and just the sheer chaos of the real world.
Yeah, totally. But imagine stepping out into the ash and the mud of the Australian bush right after a massive wildfire.
Wow, okay.
And suddenly, that digital brain has grown eyes. It has stepped right out of the screen, and it is actively sorting through the physical world.
That is exactly what we are looking at today.
Yeah, we are tracking a fundamental shift. We're looking at the evolution of AI from like a cloud-based chatbot into a hyper-practical physical world problem solver.
And we have a really fascinating stack of materials guiding this deep dive.
We do.
There's a field report directly from Parks Victoria, a rather groundbreaking research paper from Google DeepMind on a radically new vision model, and several tech industry briefs charting how this shift is actively rewriting economic structures.
Right, and understanding how AI is moving out of the cloud and into the physical environment, saving everything from endangered wildlife to, hours of your own office grunt work, is really the ultimate shortcut to navigating the next decade of technology.
It is happening rapidly.
It is, and you want to see the mechanisms behind it. So let's start in the dirt.
Let's do it.
The Parks Victoria report introduces us to Dr. Erin Nash. She's a conservation officer.
Right.
Following the summer bushfires in the Otways, she headed into the field to assess the damage, and she pulled 73 field cameras.
Which is a lot of hardware to manage.
Yeah, and it yielded a massive 39,000 images.
And her goal there was highly specific.
Yeah.
She was looking for surviving pockets of native species.
Mm.
Specifically, she was tracking pahurus, bandicoots, and the swamp antechinus.
Right, those really fragile native populations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But simultaneously, she had to identify incoming threats to those survivors from feral red deer and feral pigs.
Okay, let's unpack this. We are talking about 39,000 photos of dense brush.
Yeah.
Manually reviewing every single one to find a tiny camouflaged animal isn't just looking for a needle in a haystack. It's looking for a needle in a haystack where the hay keeps moving.
That is a great way to put it.
Because motion-activated cameras are notorious for false positives. A falling leaf, a shifting shadow, like a branch blowing in the wind, all of these trigger the shutter.
Oh, absolutely. And that false positive rate creates an immense data bottleneck.
I can imagine.
Checking those images one by one would traditionally take a human team weeks of just grueling, eye-straining work. And the timing is critical here.
Because of the predators.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By the time a human analyst spots a feral pig in a photo from, say, 3 weeks ago, that pig has likely already decimated the endangered native animals in that specific area.
So the data is basically stale.
Right. The delay in processing renders the data effectively useless for real-time conservation.
But Dr. Nash didn't spend weeks.
No, she didn't.
The backlog was cleared in a matter of hours. And the solution didn't come from some massive corporate lab either.
This is my favorite part of the report.
Yeah, it came from Peter van Lunteren. He's a Dutch data scientist who built an automated wildlife recognition AI while literally living in a van, backpacking around Australia.
It's incredible. And the technical performance of what he built on the road is staggering.
It really is.
This tool processes 20 images per second.
Wow.
It operates with over 95% accuracy, and it is trained to identify more than 200 native and feral species.
So it's fast and highly capable.
Yeah, it basically compresses weeks of tedious visual sorting into a single afternoon.
There is this specific anecdote from Chief Conservation Scientist Mark Norman in the report that really illustrates the capability here.
Oh, the parrot one.
Yes. They captured an image of an eastern ground parrot. It's an endangered species, and in this particular frame, it was perfectly camouflaged in the bush.
Like completely blended in.
Right. A human eye scanning thousands of photos would almost certainly glance right over it.
It was essentially invisible to typical visual processing.
Yet the AI confidently identified the parrot, relying entirely on the microscopic patterns of its feathers hidden in the frame.
Which is just mind-blowing.
And the methodology for capturing the bird is just as fascinating, honestly.
Oh yeah, the trap.
To lure the wildlife, they used a trap that consisted of a simple pole featuring 3 spoons filled with peanut butter, oats, and honey.
It's so low-tech.
It is!
Yeah.
You have this highly advanced AI model running inference on a peanut butter spoon trap in the middle of the bush. But wait, I need to challenge the premise here.
Okay, go for it.
If you are a conservation organization, why go through the trouble of having an independent data scientist build a custom tool from scratch?
Right. Why not use Google?
Exactly. Why not just plug those 39,000 images into an off-the-shelf vision model from Google or AWS?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying architecture of data ownership and really where the compute actually happens.
Okay.
Dr. Nash points out a critical flaw with relying on big tech companies for this kind of work. Their models operate in the cloud.
Right.
When you upload your images to their servers, they effectively own, or at least have access to, your data.
Oh, I see.
This custom model, however, is open source. Crucially, it runs locally on the user's own computer. It never touches the cloud.
Okay. So if the data stays on local hardware, you eliminate the risk of a third-party survey breach?
Precisely.
Hmm.
And for organizations like Zoos Victoria, who are actively using this AI for their lowland leadbeater's possum safe haven program at Haining Farm, that privacy is completely non-negotiable.
Because of poachers?
Exactly. It keeps incredibly sensitive location data secure. If a cloud server were compromised and that location data leaked, poachers could use the exact GPS coordinates to hunt endangered animals.
That is terrifying.
It is. Furthermore, running the model locally on edge devices changes the utility entirely.
How so?
They can connect a microcomputer directly to the camera trap out in the field. When a feral cat or fox enters the frame, the local AI processes it instantly and sends a real-time text alert.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, allowing rangers to respond immediately rather than waiting to pull an SD card weeks later.
That real-time execution at the edge is so powerful, but it also signals something broader, I think.
What do you mean?
Well, if a guy in a van can build a hyper-accurate, locally run vision model, the barrier to entry has completely collapsed.
Oh, it definitely has. This local, accessible control over massive data sets and complex processing isn't just an isolated incident in the Australian bush.
Right.
We are witnessing a massive democratization of AI across the board. The fundamental mechanics of how we tackle everyday tasks are shifting because the tools are no longer gatekept by massive server farms.
The tech industry briefs we're reviewing illustrate a complete explosion of these digital tools.
It's everywhere.
We are seeing everyday AI applications swallowing up massive, complicated software suites that used to require specialized training.
Yep.
For example, look at Google Vids. It's a hidden, free tool inside Google Workspace running on their VO 3.1 model.
Which is a very capable model.
Extremely. And it doesn't just format text. It analyzes your presentation slides, understands the narrative arc, and generates a full produced video.
It's wild.
It replaces 4 or 5 different specialized video editing and animation tools with a single prompt.
And it extends far beyond media generation, too. The sources highlight how Claude has evolved.
Oh, right, the integrations.
Yeah, it now connects directly to over 200 different applications via APIs, platforms like Spotify, Uber, and TripAdvisor.
That is a massive ecosystem.
It is. Claude isn't just generating text about a trip anymore. It is acting as an autonomous agent.
Right, it's doing the thing, not just talking about the thing.
Exactly. It can execute complex, multi-step tasks across all these disparate platforms, booking rides and organizing itineraries without the user ever having to leave a single chat window.
It feels like we're being handed a digital Swiss Army knife that suddenly has 200 autonomous attachments. And oh, by the way, it also includes a full video production studio hidden right in your filing cabinet.
That is a perfect analogy. The friction of executing digital tasks is just disappearing.
It really is.
The briefs point to developers now having access to 80 different Nvidia AI models entirely for free.
Free.
Yes, free. And in the marketing sector, Agorapulse just released a completely free AI toolkit designed for social media teams.
Okay.
It allows users to draft content, analyze trends, and build automated workflows without needing any coding or technical skills whatsoever.
I want to push back on this narrative, though.
Okay, let's hear it.
Because there's a glaring contradiction in our sources.
Oh, the budgets.
Yes. If all these tools are becoming totally accessible, if I can spin up 80 free NVIDIA models, use free social media AI, and run open source wildlife trackers locally, why do the industry briefs explicitly state that corporate AI budgets are exploding?
It's a great question.
We are reading reports of some enterprise teams spending more capital on AI infrastructure than they are on human employees. If the tech is democratized and free, how do those two realities exist simultaneously?
Well, it comes down to the vast difference between entry-level access and enterprise-level orchestration.
Make sense of that for me.
while the entry-level tools lower the barrier for individual users to generate a video or sort photos, scaling that across an enterprise is incredibly complex.
Because of the volume.
Volume, security, all of it. You aren't just running a single model. You are integrating thousands of AI agents into legacy databases, ensuring compliance, and managing massive compute costs for continuous high-volume inference.
So the free tools are essentially the entry point, but
Yeah.
the infrastructure to run a company on them costs a fortune.
Exactly. But there is a second, more disruptive factor driving those budgets.
What's that?
The capability of these AI agents is rising so rapidly that they aren't just assisting with low-level tasks anymore. They are actively displacing high-level human work. That level of disruption requires massive structural reorganization within a company, which is incredibly expensive.
The briefs give a chilling example of exactly that kind of displacement.
Yes, they did.
Hmm.
There was an account from a former Meta AI executive.
This stood out to me.
It's wild. She observed autonomous AI agents consistently outperforming her absolute best human employees at complex strategic tasks.
Wow.
It wasn't just about speed either. It was about the quality of the output.
The AI was just doing better work.
Consistently.
Yeah.
It was such a profound structural shift in what human labor means in that environment that she actually left her position.
She quit.
She did. She founded a nonprofit specifically designed to help Gen Z navigate and survive a job market that is being radically redefined by these capabilities.
If AI is causing this much financial and structural disruption at the enterprise level, it means these models must have crossed a new threshold of capability.
They absolutely have.
They aren't just guessing based on text patterns anymore, you know? They actually understand the physical parameters of what they are analyzing.
Right.
And that brings us to Google DeepMind's latest research paper. Image generators are generalist vision learners. In it, they introduce a brand new model called Vision Banana.
It is arguably the most technical and most groundbreaking piece of our stack today.
Aside from the classic tech industry naming convention of Vision Banana, what actually makes the architecture of this model so different?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture of how machine vision has historically operated, the paradigm shift is massive.
How so?
For years, the industry relied on highly specialized, separate models for different visual tasks. If you needed an AI to read an image, to segment a photo, identify objects, or calculate depth, you built a specialized model like SAM3.
Okay, so a model specifically for looking at stuff.
Right. That model had what we call specific heads designed purely for analysis. But if you wanted to generate a new image from scratch, you built a completely different architecture, like Nano Banana Pro.
So you had one brain for seeing and a totally separate brain for creating.
Exactly. Two distinct pathways.
And Vision Banana collapses that architecture.
Yes. It removes those specialized analytical heads entirely. The core innovation is that Vision Banana treats complex analytical tasks like image segmentation, depth perception, and spatial geometry purely as image generation problems.
Wait, really?
Yeah, it uses a generative engine to solve analytical physics.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The paper uses two specific terms to explain how this works: instruction tuning and decodable pixels.
Yes.
I want to make sure the mechanics of this are clear. How do you take a model designed to creatively generate an image and force it to output rigorous mathematical physics?
It comes down to how they train the model to output data. Through a process called instruction tuning, they force the model to adhere strictly to quantitative rules rather than artistic interpretation.
Okay, I follow.
When you ask Vision Banana to map the depth of a room, it doesn't just draw a pretty picture. It outputs a false color visual map using highly specific RGB color schemes.
So it's essentially painting a picture, but the colors it chooses represent actual numbers.
Exactly. But it's not just a representation. Because that specific RGB color mapping is mathematically invertible, those generated colored pixels can be extracted and converted directly back into precise physical measurements of the room.
Wow.
Yeah, the model uses its creative generation capabilities to output an image that functions as a strict mathematical data set.
Wait, hold on. I get that the colors translate back to math. But how does it know the math in the first place?
That's the crazy part.
If it's just generating an image from a prompt, isn't it still just hallucinating the dimensions.
Yeah.
How can you rely on a generative model to give you real-world geometry if it isn't using a physical sensor to measure the space?
That is exactly what the researchers refer to as the no-camera miracle.
The no-camera miracle.
Vision Banana possesses such vast foundational world knowledge embedded within its training weights that it can infer absolute scale purely from context.
Seriously?
Yes, it inherently understands the physical geometry of our world. It knows how large a standard vehicle is, how tall a doorway should be, and how light interacts with those surfaces.
So it doesn't need to actually measure anything.
Nope. It doesn't need a physical camera lens, a LiDAR sensor, or a reference point. It understands the physical properties of the objects simply by generating the image of them.
It knows the scale of a car just by understanding the fundamental concept of what a car is in physical space.
Exactly.
That is wild. We are rapidly moving past the era of specialized chatbots that just string words together. We are entering the era of the autonomous, generalist agent that genuinely understands the physics and geometry of our physical world.
And if you look at the wider market, capital is rushing toward this exact convergence.
Oh, the money always follows.
The transition from specialized text bots to physically aware generalist agents is where all the bets are being placed right now.
Let's bring this back to how this convergence applies to the tools available right now. The briefs mention a whole suite of applications leveraging this.
They do.
You have platforms like Quick Compare, which allows you to seamlessly test prompts across 50 different AI models simultaneously to find the best speed and cost for a specific physical or visual task.
Right.
You have Pisca, utilizing these vision models to organize and generate complex color themes for design architecture. And then you have systems like Zero Human.
Zero Human is a perfect example of this agentic shift.
Break that down.
It mixes distinct models, OpenClaw, Paperclip, and Spud, to act as a literal AI co-founder.
A co-founder.
Yeah, it doesn't just give you advice. It actively runs tasks, manages workflows, and builds digital products autonomously.
The financial markets are entirely aware of what this level of autonomy means.
Oh, absolutely.
The tech briefs highlight a startup called Humans. They were founded by ex-OpenAI and Google researchers, and they just raised $480 million in a seed round.
A seed round.
Yeah, they are currently valued at $4.5 billion. They raised that staggering amount of capital specifically to build next-generation AI that operates beyond the chatbot paradigm, focusing entirely on these autonomous, world-aware agents.
It's also crucial to note that this shift isn't restricted to software companies either.
What do you mean?
The hardware giants are pivoting to support this hybrid physical-digital execution. Look at Nvidia.
Okay.
They aren't known for building quantum computers, but their new AI model was recently deployed to analyze quantum states, and it boosted quantum accuracy by 3 times.
Wait, how does an AI vision or logic model boost the accuracy of a quantum chip?
By understanding complex physical parameters, quantum states are incredibly fragile and prone to microscopic errors,
Right.
NVIDIA's AI model acts as a highly advanced error correction system. It analyzes the massive, noisy datasets generated by the quantum computer and predicts where the errors occur so that they can be corrected in real time.
That is incredible.
It proves that the real future of computing isn't just pure software or pure hardware. It's hybrid systems, mixing advanced generalist AI with heavy-duty GPUs to solve incredibly complex real-world physics problems.
So what does this all mean?
That's the big question.
For you listening to this right now, it means that AI is no longer just a clever text generator that helps you outline an email or write a cover letter.
No, those days are over.
It has evolved into an active autonomous partner. It possesses deep visual and spatial understanding, and it is capable of executing complex actions in the real world.
It is a profound shift in utility, moving from digital assistance to physical execution.
Let's wrap up the incredible trajectory of the sources we explored today. We started in the ash of the Australian bush, where a data scientist living in a van utilized the democratization of compute power to build a local open-source tool. A tool that protects the lowland leadbeater's possum without exposing sensitive data to cloud servers. From there, we tracked how that same democratization is collapsing software suites into single AI prompts via tools like Google Vids and Claude.
Which then led us to the underlying capability driving all of this.
Exactly.
Models like DeepMind's Vision Banana, which abandoned specialized architectural heads to render precise physical measurements as mathematically invertible RGB pixels.
Keeping up with these shifts gives you a massive operational advantage in your own life and career. Understanding that AI is now an open source tool you can run locally on your own laptop to protect data, or that you can deploy autonomous agents to entirely automate your workflows, means the power to execute highly complex ideas is literally sitting on your desk.
But, this immense capability raises a critical question, and it's a structural contradiction I want to leave you with today.
Okay, lay it on us.
If we look at the industry forecasts in our briefs, Elon Musk is predicting that AI and robotics will soon create such a state of extreme global abundance that traditional financial structures like your retirement savings might actually be pointless in 10 to 20 years.
Wow.
In his view, the cost of goods and services will plummet so close to zero that money itself might become irrelevant.
A completely post-scarcity economy.
That is the projection. However, contrast that utopian vision of abundance with the core principles just published by OpenAI, which we also reviewed.
Right, the principles.
If you're carefully between the lines of those principles, you realize the primary focus of these massive organizations isn't merely about building smarter, faster models anymore.
What is it about?
The real battle being waged right now is about deciding who owns the power. And that decision is far from locked.
That is the real tension here. Will this coming era of AI abundance be deeply democratized, running locally and freely shared, exactly like the park ranger's open source tool in the Australian bush?
Or will it go the other way?
Yeah, will that unimaginable, world-altering power be entirely consolidated by a few massive tech giants operating out of heavily guarded server farms?
The architecture of that power dynamic is being built right now, and it will define the next decade.
It really will. So, as you go about your day, think back to that chat box we talked about at the very beginning. It's not just a brain in a digital jar anymore. It has grown eyes, it understands the physics of our reality, and it has stepped out into the physical world. The only question left is, well, who ultimately gets to tell it what to look at? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.